Hey guys, it's Kevin. It's my review for Terminal. So what Terminal is basically about is we center on a bunch of different people. We got these two hitmen, we got this one teacher, we also have this one really weird, kind of creepy janitor, and each one of these people, they're all following the same woman, Anne, who clearly has some sort of her own agenda, and basically throughout the film, all of these men start to unravel what's actually going on with her, and that really is all I'm going to say. So Terminal in general, I was interested in this movie. I wasn't like hyped out of my mind or anything, but there were definitely a few factors. The fact that Mike Myers was coming back was definitely a huge part of it. I mean, just the fact that we're getting a movie in 2018, two movies in 2018, and Mike Myers is a big part in both of them, I think is honestly really cool. But also the plot sounded really interesting. The cast was really good. Margot Robbie, Simon Pegg. I mean, there's no way this movie could have been that bad, right? Well, you're wrong, actually. Terminal is terrible. It is a bad movie that is so incoherent. It doesn't seem to have any idea of what it wants to be whatsoever, and it's one of the biggest, I think, examples of like a wannabe James Bond type movie I've seen in a while. But let's just get into this film, starting off with the cast. And look, I'll give the movie this. The cast in here, they're talented. These are talented individuals, and I do think everyone does at least try in this movie. Let's first talk about our main character here, Margot Robbie. She's one of the best actresses working today. She's one of the best character actresses, especially working today. And coming off the heels of I, Tonya, this does not bode well for her because she really is not that great in this movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I think for the first two acts of this movie, she actually is pretty good. She's very mysterious. She is very over the top. You can tell there's a lot of stuff that she's hiding, and she definitely does do a very good job with that. Annie is very intriguing. You want to know more about her. You want to know what's actually going on with her, what her real agenda is. You know, why is she following all these men? And I think she did a really good job with that. Towards the end of the film is when I really started to feel significantly colder on her as and not just as the character, but as an actor in general. I think she really started to go too over the top, and I don't necessarily think it's her fault. I think this all is more a directing problem than an acting problem. We'll get to that a little bit later, but Margot Robbie, very good actress, but this is definitely not an example of how great of an actress she really is, because I really did not think she was that great here. In fact, I thought the best part of this movie and the best actor was easily Simon Pegg. I actually really did like his character. He's this teacher who has this terminal illness, and he really doesn't seem to like his job very much, and him and Robbie connect very early on in the film, and their scenes, I think, are some of the best of the entire movie. I really would just love to see a film of these two working here, something that's much better than Terminal, but it really did show that these two actually do have very good chemistry, and like I said, I'd love to see them in something much better than this, because I do think they actually worked very well together here. And then everyone else here, they are fine for the most part. Max Irons and Dexter Fletcher, they are okay in this movie. Nothing amazing, but they do their job. Mike Myers, let's talk about him, because obviously a lot of people are going to see this film or watch it on VOD, you know, however you end up seeing it, because of Mike Myers. And I'll say this right now. For the first two acts of this movie, he is easily one of the best things about it. He has a lot of really weird comedy, but he actually does make it work. He actually does bring a lot of light to this film. This is a film that does feel pretty lifeless, and I did actually feel like Mike Myers seemed like he was having fun for the most part, and he was into it. Later on, when the character starts to get more screen time, that's when I really thought his performance suffered, and you know, again, Mike Myers, it's not really so much his fault. He's doing his usual shtick where he's just acting very weird, and he has a lot of really weird lines and things like that. But I think overall, the cast here, they did what they needed to do, and I think, you know, the performances that they turned in, whether good or not, it's definitely not their fault. Who is at fault here is Vaughn Stein, which, where the fuck do I begin with this guy? I mean, not only is he responsible for the directing, but he's also responsible for the writing, and I think the entire film crumbled pretty much because of him. Right off the bat, the directing, the film is just so confused. It has no idea what it wants to be. It starts off and it feels kind of like a period piece of sorts, kind of like something like, I'd say, like a mobster film, maybe like a Martin Scorsese film or something like that, so it definitely has that tone to it. Then it'll take this shift and it tries to be like a James Bond movie, and it has that touch to it. Then there's a whole thing going on where there's this like mysterious mob boss who is giving all these people orders, and you don't know who he is, and he sounds just like Jigsaw. So at times it even feels like a Saw movie at points. I mean, this movie, it just has, and there even are some torture scenes in this film, so it really doesn't have any idea what it wants to be whatsoever. I guess the most blatant connection you could make is like Atomic Blonde, because this film does share a lot of similarities to that, but believe it or not, I would actually take Atomic Blonde over this movie, because that film at least did have some coherence. Terminal is the complete opposite. It has almost no coherence whatsoever. There's random comedy, there's just random stuff going on, and it just doesn't work. And the writing is also a huge problem here, because like I said, not only does this movie not know what it is tonally, it doesn't know what its central focus is. Like, who are these characters? Who are they supposed to be? Why do I care about them? These characters are some of the most one-note individuals I think I've seen all year. All Margot Robbie is just this sleazy, very sort of provocative sort of character who we don't really know much about. She's basically just a blank slate, and she is until the very end of the movie. They don't really tell you anything about her until like the last 30 minutes of the movie, and I will get to that, because a lot of shit goes down. None of it really makes any sense whatsoever. Simon Pegg, all he is basically what I told you. He's just a teacher who he's stressed out, and he has this terminal illness, and I will admit, the stuff between him and Margot Robbie, I did think somewhat saved this film. I thought their bonding in the film was actually really well done at points, and I'm not gonna lie, there were points where I'm like, okay, I'm sort of getting into this, not because of the story, but because of them as actors. I did think they worked very well together. There's a good scene where she's kind of helping him plot something, and I thought it was well done, but again, the story doesn't make any sense, and especially the way that these characters intertwine just feels so forced. You don't at all understand why we're following these two stories. How does, you know, the diner Margot Robbie connect to the one who's helping out the two gangsters? How does this really connect? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The world building also is significantly weak in this film. I mean, the film has no idea where it is or where the setting is. I mean, the plot literally says it's like a futuristic world, and that's it. There's never any point as to why the characters look like they're dressed in this like 40s attire, because it does very much seem that way. I really thought this film was in the 40s, but then they're using like futuristic technology and they're doing things that we've never heard of before, and it just doesn't make any sense. It just really seemed like the writing, he just got too carried away. He didn't know what he wanted this movie to be, and it just didn't work at all. And like I said, the humor when thrown in there by Mike Myers, it is appreciated, but that's because the rest of the movie is so boring. I mean, I nearly fell asleep during this movie. I watched this movie on Rabbit with like 4 of my friends. 2 of them fell asleep. That's how boring this movie is. Now, one of them does have a tendency to do that, but the other one rarely ever falls asleep, and just the fact that this movie was just so bad, it actually put 2 people to sleep. I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. It is a huge bore fest, and it's like the definition of cinematic NyQuil. That's what this is. It's a film where you can put it on, and it's gonna help you fall asleep, and that's like the only thing I could recommend about it. I will say, the cinematography, visually, this film is gorgeous. It is very well lit. It is very nice to look at, and it is a film that, you know, you could just look at with the sound off, and it actually would look really good. I think it has this really nice, sort of like I said, 1940s aesthetic to it, but it also does have this futuristic sort of vibe to it, and I think it's really cool. I actually really do like the cinematography. I just wish I knew what the fuck it all meant, because again, they never explain any of that to you. The score's whatever, I don't really care about that. And the editing, like I said, the movie is all over the place. Also, it's way too short. The movie is 90 minutes long, and it feels like there's so much missing from this movie. And we'll especially get to that when we get to like the last 30 minutes of this movie, which I will get to very soon. But even at 90 minutes, the film is still boring. That is just honestly, it's ridiculous that at 90 minutes, the film is still as boring as it is. Like I said, there's just not really much of anything happening. They don't tell you really anything about these characters, so you're just wondering, why do I care about them? Who are they? Why are we following them? Why are they in this movie? Why am I spending all this time with them? You know, we don't know any of that, and it just did not work overall. However, as bad as the movie is, that is nothing compared to the last 30 or so minutes of this movie, which we're delving into spoilers here, guys, because I need to talk about this shit. I mean, there's so much that goes down in these last 30 minutes. And again, if you guys haven't seen the movie, just watch it. I would not recommend it, but you guys probably have interest in anyway. You've seen Margot Robbie on the poster. You've seen Simon Pegg. Go ahead, watch it, and then come back and we'll just discuss everything that goes down. Look, here's what I think really happened. I think someone like Vaughn Stein, he had this idea for this movie, and he knew exactly where he was going to end it. He knew what he wanted the twist to be. He just didn't understand the getting there. So instead of him maybe, sprinkling some things out throughout the movie, he literally throws every single plot twist in the last 30 minutes, and they happen one after the other. Let's first talk about the whole thing between Simon Pegg and Margot Robbie, because it is definitely hinted at throughout the film that these two do know each other, and that they have some sort of, he recognizes her, and for some reason he just can't seem to remember what's going on, but they clearly have some kind of past, and the film is not subtle about this at all. It is very obvious that these two have some sort of relationship, and that something happened between them, and we get to the ending, and we find out that basically the complete opposite of what I thought they were going to go. I thought they were going to go in this direction where basically maybe he was like a spy back in the day and she helped him out with something, but that's not what they end up doing. Instead, it turns out that the whole reason for her, helping him out was basically so he could die. This was her way of getting her revenge on him, because this was a teacher who absolutely hated his job. He wanted nothing to do with kids, and Margot Robbie was an example of that. It is implied that he really hated her. He wanted nothing to do with her. He locked her up in like this room, practically raped her. I mean, it's really messed up stuff. And again, it is a good twist overall. I do like where they went with this idea overall. The problem is that we're not given any time to breathe when it comes to this twist. There's never that moment where this feels like, okay, this is everything we've been building to. If they maybe would have sprinkled throughout the film that Robbie was in this incident with this teacher and she really wanted to get revenge on him, that would actually be really well done. They could actually set that up, and we didn't realize she was talking about Simon Pegg. That would have been a really gratifying twist. I would have been like, okay, this feels rewarding. This feels like something we were building to. Never once in the film do they point this out. This is only at the very end of the movie. It is a complete exposition dump, and immediately after this is revealed, Simon Pegg is taken out. He's just killed right then and there. 30 minutes left in the movie, mind you. You would think that this was the end of the movie. You would think this was the climax, but it's not. There's still about 20 minutes left, and that's not even the beginning of the twist, because there's still 3 more twists in this movie. First of all, we get to the 2 hitmen that she's working with, and she takes one of them out. We realize that her and Dexter Fletcher have actually Max Irons. They've been in a relationship this entire time, but then it turns out, no, she actually wasn't working for him, so she takes him out. But then we get to, I think, the colossal what the fuck moment of this entire movie. So now we're at the end of the film, and if you guys are keeping track, almost every single character is dead before this film even comes to an end, and it's like one after the other. It's like, Simon Pegg dies, let's get to the next scene, kill Max Irons, next scene, kill Dexter Fletcher. It's like rapid speed at this point, and if you're keeping track, the only person who's alive is Mike Myers, and this character, like I said, the first 2 acts, he was very sporadic. He's just this janitor that seems to kind of know more than he lets on, and we also know that there was this voice that Anne was working for that was, you know, there was obviously someone who was behind it all, that was kind of like the middleman in all this, and it turns out that was actually Mike Myers. Yes, this janitor actually went undercover. He removes the plastic surgery, which I get they were kind of trying to make a nod at the plastic surgery, but to be honest with you, I thought Mike Myers actually looked better as the janitor than he does as this crime boss. When he unmasked himself, it was laughable. I honestly was on the verge of just bursting out into laughter, but I didn't, but it was laughable when he did that, and basically, it turns out that he's been working for Margot Robbie the entire time. The whole thing was something that he organized, but also was kind of like this revenge mission for her. But that's still not the end of it. There's still more to go. I know, I can't believe it. I honestly, my head is spinning myself. I don't know what they're trying to do here, but the end of the movie, we also find out that basically, it turns out that not only, you know, was he the mob boss, but we also get hinted at in the film that, you know, there seems to be more than one of them. And it turns out that is actually the case. Margot Robbie has been a twin this entire time. That is how they've been able to do so much of this on their own, which, okay, I do think that is, once again, a good twist in the film. It makes sense why there was so much going on. You know, the stuff that they were doing, it just seemed completely illogical that one person would be able to do all of that. So it makes sense why there were 2 of them. What doesn't make sense is the very end of this movie when it turns out not only is Mike Myers the crime boss, but he actually is their father. And the whole thing has been them trying to basically pay revenge for their father. Their father, he was with their mother, and basically their mother died because of it or whatever. I honestly don't know. There was a lot of exposition in this last scene, and basically she gave up her 2 daughters. They became like assassins, and they've been hunting down their father ever since. I don't know why they waited now to tell him. This, again, this could have been something you could have told him at any time whatsoever. He was your boss this entire time, mind you, but they decided to tell him right then and there, and at first, you don't know what they're going to do. Basically, they end up hurting him. They give him a lobotomy, and then the movie ends with them walking away, and the entire movie basically feels pointless. And again, these twists on paper aren't bad. I don't think these are terrible twists. Okay, Mike Myers being the head of it all, that is laughable. That is ridiculous. I don't know who in their right mind thought that that was a smart idea, but it's literally one of the dumbest things that I've heard of. Again, it's like, you know, if you were to make, for example, like the funny guy in, say, you know, just a random example, just think of like a funny character in something. You know, if you were to make him like the bad guy, if you were to do that, that's kind of what this felt like very much. It felt like they were just trying to do that to the comedic part of the film, and it's just ridiculous that they actually went in that direction. But basically, the movie ends. I don't know what the hell any of it meant, but that just left me even more baffled, and it made me honestly hate the movie way more than I already did. So like I said, guys, Terminal is a truly awful film. It wastes so much talent. It is actually quite well acted, at least for the first 2 acts. It doesn't have any sort of structure whatsoever. It doesn't really seem to care much about its characters until the very end of the movie, and even when these revelations do happen, they don't really mean much of anything. It's as if you watched this movie basically for nothing. That's really the best way to describe it. This movie, it's just nothing. It really feels like nothing. At the end of the day, you're just sitting there and you're like, why did I watch this movie? Don't rent it, guys. It really is not worth your time whatsoever. These are very talented actors, and I do think there are some good ideas within this film, but just this did not work at all. There are some good singular movies in here. Just a movie about Margot Robbie and Simon Pegg, that would have been fine. A movie about Margot Robbie and the 2 agents, that would have been fine. A movie about the 2 agents and Mike Myers, that would have been fine, but they just don't work altogether. And for me, this was easily one of the worst films I have seen all year, and I'm definitely going to give Terminal a D. Like I said, guys, you can rent this now for like $6, but I really don't encourage that. Wait till the price goes down. Wait till it's like the 99-cent rental, because I'm sure it will be at some point. This is definitely not worth your time at all, but that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Something that might be worth your time, that if you guys didn't see in the last video, if you guys remember last year, my good friend Adam Haskell, he actually, made that Batman Cookie 4 movie that I talked endlessly about. Well, he's doing it again this year with a little movie called Number 2 Part 2. He has been very secretive about it, and there are trailers out there if you guys do want to check it out. Definitely go to the main page, but I highly encourage you guys to watch that. It is definitely going to be, hopefully, a very competently made film. He is definitely, he's given me hints at things, but he hasn't really told me, like, what the main plot is about or anything, so I definitely encourage you guys to check that one out for sure. But either way, guys, that's it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.